Hello, my name is Dr. Susan Swam, and I am an executive director of NowISeeAPerson Institute. And I am here with David Abramovich and Jennifer and Ashley, who will be attending our conference on April 7th at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you can find out more about this conference by emailing admin, ADMIN, at NowISeeAPerson.com. The title of the conference is called Normalizing Ourselves for the Clients, Freeing Ourselves and Finding Freedom. Now I See a Person Institute was founded in 2007, mirrored after where I was trained and where I was faculty at is the Houston Galveston Institute. And at the Houston Galveston Institute, as well as Now I See a Person Institute, we look for other alternatives to help people heal rather than the narratives of mental illness. And such, people come to us usually after many attempts to be able to heal from trauma with what we call traditional modalities, which may include psychiatry or therapy that sees that there's deficiency inside of a person. And we see challenges that happen as being much different. We see a diagnosis as a cluster of symptoms, but we don't see that a diagnosis is necessarily what represents is going on with that client and the pain and suffering that they have, nor is part of their journey to wellness and to finding freedom. That there's many possibilities that are created between clients and those who serve clients to find individually tailored paths where they become not only asymptomatic, but they find freedom and that they're able to become the person that they want to be. And that might not be always something that's very rigid, but flexible. And because I know that I'm a different person today than I was maybe last week or 10 years ago or many, many years ago. So I'm going to stop at this point in time and I'm going to bring in Ashley. And Ashley's going to talk a little bit about how this conference is important to her and what she hopes in this journey to finding freedom for other people.
Hello, thank you for introducing me. And I'm so excited to start this conversation about finding freedom and finding empowerment within alternative and flexible paths, because the path of, well, finding your own power and joy is different for absolutely everyone. And I've been contemplating this very much so within my life. And I find that my freedom is in the unknown and allowing myself to be curious and to be a student of not only myself, but also the world at large. And it's also this process of opening up my heart and allowing love to come into my heart. And that I know can sound really abstract, but it speaks of like being curious and being open and really just allowing yourself to feel your feelings and finding empowerment with your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of viewing like my sadness or anxious or any of these labeled negative emotions as something bad, I view it as like this is a key marker for either, I should be doing something different in my life, or I use it to power my creativity. And then I realize once I feel through the emotions, then I'm the emotion doesn't linger and stay anymore. The only way out of it for me is through, instead of this suppression of emotion. So I find my freedom through feeling and expressing and um, yeah, this process of opening my heart and being curious about myself, the world around me.
One of the things I was thinking when you were talking is that I know that you have written with us on finding freedom in the past. And, you know, all of us have had ups and downs in life and symptoms, but not all of us have been treated because not all of us are on that radar that we would be seen by a psychiatrist or we would be seen by a clinician. And so, I often say that if I had been young and that someone had uh, given me a diagnosis, that I would have had multiple diagnoses, and that sometimes those diagnoses are hard to break away from. And so, when you were just now talking about your own journey to finding freedom by having this curiosity and this a not knowing position, and this ability to d- be in a moment of discovering what perhaps you may want to do in life, what you certainly probably don't want to do in life, and that probably all of us go through these stages. When you've had a diagnosis in the past, I think it makes you doubt whether you're making the right decisions. And I'm just wondering if that's something you find parity with.
Very much so. I very much so relate to that. I find that um, because in the past I've struggled with managing emotions, like most youth do. Most
Mhm,
youth struggle with emotional regulation. Um, not only is it hard for me to trust myself, but also like people around you don't tend to trust you as much, and they keep reminding you, "Oh, what if the bad thing happens again?" It's like, well, no, I'm in a different spot, and
mhm,
I know myself better, and we're more emotionally mature, and like um getting curious of being like, you know what? I trust myself enough that
mhm,
I know that nothing's going to break me down to that point again, because I know
mhm,
that because I've experienced these emotions, I know the like mm, symptoms or like the little flags where I know, oh, okay, this is not going well.
mhm,
So listening to myself is
mhm,
really, really, really important. If I find that like I'm sleeping a lot more, then I'm like, okay, I'm not happy. Or if I'm, just little things. Everybody's going to have something different, but really listening to yourself and not seeing it as like this is a problem. It's more of like, oh, this is myself trying to tell myself something
mhm.
about my environment.
And I think those of us that have not been quote unquote diagnosed, that somehow we go through those pathways and we don't worry. So, like, let's just say if I'm up and let's just say that some type of stress occurred and trauma or something, and I'm having a hard time sleeping. Because I haven't had a diagnosis, then I don't have to worry about it, right? I'm just like, oh man, that's kind of annoying. I'm not sleeping right now. But there's none of that, oh, well, maybe I'll have to go back on medication, or, oh, maybe maybe I'm like digressing in some way. Like the weight of being treated is very formidable and very heavy and very bound to make us
Mhm.
doubt ourselves. And for that,
Mhm.
I hope that this conference helps people realize that they can create new freeing self identities, that they can find freedom from kind of this deficiency labeling that we've given ourselves, that other people have given us, or professionals or friends or family or so on. Society, watching TV. If there's not enough commercials every day. It has grown quite considerably, at least in my opinion. And I just think back that even when I was a young clinician, there was no thought that someone could not get well and have just a perfectly wonderful life of curiosity, living with your heart and having freedom. So I appreciate so much that comment. And so we're just going to go on to um, the next person in our panel right now. So I don't know if David, you or Jennifer would like to go first and kind of bounce off the idea too.
Sure. I mean, from the perspective of a clinician, I think like the difference between um, two clients that come to me or us with mental challenges, and one has been in therapy for life and has been diagnosed and so on and so forth, versus a client who comes to us fresh, so to speak, which rarely happens.
Mm-hmm.
But when that happens, our work is almost seamless. We don't have to deconstruct anything. There's no worry. There's no second guessing yourself because of your diagnosis. There's basically, okay, I'm a human being going through challenges that every other human being has gone through forever, and I will get over this. Mm-hmm. However, once you mix in a diagnosis and mix in pathology, then our work becomes incrementally harder. And I think I've seen this pattern over and over and over again, and it's quite telling. And it just shows that diagnosis is just merely a social construction that impairs people from really facing what's really going on, and that's just normal life struggles. And it's something that we all deal with, and I think it's best dealt with in the framework of a community. Mm-hmm. And I think all of this coincides with the loss of a sense of community. So I don't know, I'm just kind of rambling, but giving my impressions of how diagnoses and the lack of community have contributed to the state of affairs we find ourselves in today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Jennifer, did you want to take it next? Do you want to continue the thoughts, or would you like to have some other ideas for what's important?
I really like, mm-hmm. I wanted to expand a little bit on what David was saying about the people who come in with diagnosis already, and it being a little bit more challenging than someone who was coming in without a previous diagnosis. I thought that was a very interesting point to make. Like regarding what I had said earlier about students on campus really feeling like they need a specific path of treatment because they were diagnosed and made to believe that there's something in them that is not fixable, not so that they kind of believe like they can't overcome it. Like it's just who they are. They make it so much part of their personality, of their identity, of who they are, that they're almost not open to the idea of trying to find a different path of recovery, or even letting themselves believe that there is such thing as recovery for them. And then myself being someone who was never diagnosed and not ever closing myself to that, oh, I am broken, this is who I am, and it is what it is. I was always open to grow, to change, to evolve, to heal, because as he said, it's such a normal human experience to have. We're going to experience pain. we're going to experience struggle. Yes, some people experience it more than others, but it's never something we cannot come back from. It's just more of a challenge for some people because of, maybe some people had more trauma more consistently in their life for a longer period of time compared to other people who maybe had not experienced that for long periods of time. But I really like that point you said. It's so true.
I think this brings me back to, I was thinking about this, I don't know, sometime this last year, but I remember when my mother had experienced some trauma and I wanted her to get help. So, like a good daughter, I brought her to a doctor, right, to get some
Mhm.
help. And I can remember her sitting down and I was there and my dad was there with her and she was asked how she was eating, how she was sleeping, and uh, the trauma was completely not spoken of.
Mm.
um, Instead, it, the questions that were asked had to do with the diagnosis. The questions that were asked had to do with a certain formulaic method of
Mm.
the person that was the clinician of seeing. And so it's so interesting with that in our field. We have so many different points of view of
Yeah.
what could be happening with someone in order for um, pain to occur.
Hmm.
And I guess with us, with our predecessors, again, this marriage and family therapy movement, as it was called when it was in its infancy, was really geared towards helping people recover, not so much that they could find that thing, as Lynn Hoffman said, that thing in the bushes that had caused whatever to happen, but having this sense of community. Like if you're a child suffering, that is the child and parents and, you know, whoever is important in their community, helping them to overcome whatever obstacle there is. And you being the mother of a child, you know how that is. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They want to so badly figure out who they are, and they seek the community within their schools with their peers to try to figure out amongst themselves who they are and who they are compared to their peers.
And so, you know, for example, if your child in some ways was experiencing some type of distress,
Mm.
I assume that you would find ways to make that different with you kind of being the leader of that program instead of giving that to somebody else to help guide you. I think that I might not have said that in a way that makes too much sense, but I guess one of the things I was thinking is that parents have so much, and maybe parents and other family members have given up so much of their empowerment to
Hmm.
help solve what's going on in their own families. And it sometimes gets assigned to professionals rather than the family members.
Yeah.
I think that happens a lot of times in the schools sometimes because the family members are seen as being deficient. So you have to have a third party come in to help heal the whole system. When maybe the system isn't so broken, it's just that um, it's experiencing some bumpiness and some challenges that maybe a
Yeah.
consultant would be helpful, but that doesn't need to be the pack leader.
Yeah, I agree. Um, Sometimes it's better to let the people kind of guide the healing themselves, and then the clinician or whoever is overseeing that just to kind of follow the person's lead.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like when they push too hard to see improvement, it may discourage them from wanting to attempt to do it in fear of failing or in fear of disappointing or in fear of feeling inadequate, of not being able to meet expectations.
And in a way, I wish Ashley was still here because she's in a different country. And, one of the things that we've all heard and that she has said on previous podcasts is that in the country, she's in Italy right now. And in Italy, you can't get psychiatric medication, number one. But in Italy, number
Interesting.
two, right? In Italy,
Mhm.
people don't go on medicine and people don't need therapy. And
Wow. That's something
that's
I'm
not.
excited about too for the meeting we're going to have in April. Is
Mhm.
because we have a lot of people from different parts of the world. We're going to get to hear like what you just said, everyone in different parts of the world experience healing and diagnoses differently. The cultures are
Mhm.
different. And I had no idea that Italy didn't do it that way. It's so normalized here in the US.
I know if you told those girls that you were talking about previously that all had
Hmm.
psychiatric diagnoses and had been hospitalized many times and were so afraid to be without their medications, they probably wouldn't believe you almost that people could survive without being on medications.
Right. Yeah, they would. They'd be in for a shock.
It's France too. So somebody on our panel had some bumps in the road when they were younger, and they went to France to get a refill on their medication, and they had to fly back to the United States.
Wow.
Yeah. So is that still going on in 2024? I don't know, but I would assume that it hasn't massively changed. It's only here that we have so much of a need for the services. So David, I don't know if you like we have not made enough room for your wonderful voice. Maybe there's other things that you would like to say. I really like the idea of welcoming people and welcoming their voices to add to what we've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of this is so real, and I think what this conference will show is uh, true life examples of what we're talking about. And I think it'll bring a richness, and it'll bring context, and it will bring um, a commonality to all of what we're saying. And I'm excited for everyone who attends um, to not only listen but also partake and give their sort of life experience when it comes to this, and in their own personal search for freedom, whether it be you know dealing with what to choose as their career or so on and so forth, or mental health challenges, or whatever that may be, because to me, I view everything as equal, and I view everything as sort of part of just being alive and part of the human condition. Um, so I'm very excited to not only speak at this conference, but also attend this conference.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. So I think we'll leave your words to be the parting words, and we welcome people into a space, whether it is clinicians or um, those who teach and train in our field, recovery consultants, which is going to be wonderful to share our new programs with people that are working with us as consultants. and perhaps those who are just interested in having support for those who have suffered in some way or for themselves. So thank you so much from Now I See a Person Institute. We look forward to April 7th. Thank you.